So when you're talking about the best defensive teams in the league, I think you got to start with the Utah Jazz. They were number 2 in defensive rating last season with Gobert missing a decent amount of time. But once he came back, that final stretch, they were by far and away the best defensive team in the league. And assuming that he doesn't get hurt again, I'm going to think the Jazz are going to be the number 1 defense for this upcoming season. Outside of him, the team is just really solid. You got Joe Ingles, who remains the legitimately good version of Brian Scalabrine, can defend a few positions, stays within the team system well. Jay Crowder's offense and jump shot may never come back from his time with Boston, but at least he knows how to lock some guys up. Derek Favors remains one of the more underrated players in the league. He actually had both of his legs this season. He was not recovering from an injury, so he'll be able to move along the floor but also defend around the basket pretty okay. And then you got Donovan Mitchell, who, sure, the media and everything is going to focus on his offense as they should, but he's going to help out on the other side of the floor as well. I think these guys will be number 1. Next up, we are going to look at the second best defensive team last year, the Boston Celtics, who are loaded with versatility, rim protection, on-ball defense, strong rebounders, and a whole lot of athleticism. It's going to help them that Gordon Hayward is back now. He'll give them a solid 18 and 5 on one end and be solid on the other end as well. And then you got Al Horford, who can just do whatever you ask him to do. Whether it's defend some big like Joel Embiid in the post, defend a perimeter-oriented 5 like a Nikola Jokic, he'll just do it all for you. It helps that Jason Tatum was way better than people expected him to be defensively as a rookie. And even if he doesn't get any better, if he just stays where he's at, then that's pretty okay. But they've also got some ammo off the bench as well in Marcus Smart and Aaron Baines. In the case of Baines, he helped out Horford a lot last season on the boards. So when they're facing more physical teams, Stevens could throw him in there and they'll be all right. And then Marcus Smart remains one of the most frustrating players to play against, as well as one of the most difficult ones to actually beat off the dribble. So Boston should be pretty good. The 76ers have Joel Embiid, who could be up for a Defensive Player of the Year nomination. It's now his 3rd season. If his stamina is a little better, if his health is improved just a bit, if his minutes restriction is let go of just a little bit, then perhaps that could be all he needs to take that award home and for the Sixers to be number 1 in the league in defensive rating, because similar to Horford, he can just kind of do it all. He's a little better than Gobert at defending along the perimeter. Not that I want him switching onto guards all day, but if you ask him to do it, I think he has more of a chance. And besides that, this team is huge. I mean, you got Ben Simmons, who's hovering around 7 feet. Markelle Fultz's wingspan is ridiculous for a guy who's 6'4". They're going to be able to switch all over the place. You also have Robert Covington, who is still one of the better guys in the league at everything I'm talking about in this. Dario Saric is a tall guy as well. Brett Brown knows how to coach defense. They're going to be pretty damn tough to score against. The 4th team in the top 5 is the Toronto Raptors, who were already top 5 last season, and that was with OG Anunoby in just his rookie year, and we saw how good he was just naturally defensively. Really long arms, deceptively strong, knows what he's doing. Then there's Pascal Siakam, who just keeps on getting better every season. Lineups with him and Ibaka, while they didn't play much last year, they were very good when they did, and I expect Nick Nurse to do that more often. They added Danny Green, perhaps has gotten like 3% worse with on-ball defense, but he's still one of the best transition guys in the league. Barely ever makes mistakes. He won't have Pop yelling at him anymore, so that'll be nice. And now you've got Kawhi Leonard, who could go down as the best perimeter defender the NBA has ever seen. This all sounds like a nightmare for perimeter players. You're going to have to get creative with your offense, because if you want to run any isolations, there's not a whole lot of guys to attack on this roster. And like I mentioned, I think Nick Nurse is going to get very creative, where he's going to have multiple guys like this in the game at all times. Kyle Lowry is still hanging on, even if he's approaching his mid-30s. Yeah, Toronto's good, man. They managed to overload themselves on an area of the floor they were already very good at. Now, for number 5, I had a tough time. I would have picked the Oklahoma City Thunder, but now they're going to miss Andre Robertson for 2 months. And if we remember last year, the moment Robertson got hurt, they fell apart defensively. They went from like 5th or 6th in the league down to 15th or so. So, good luck on that one. Part of me believed the Spurs and Popovich could still find a way to do it, but now that DeJounte Murray is going to miss the season, they're really struggling for perimeter defenders. So, the game plan will be good, but I don't know if the talent's going to be there. Boogie is going to play at some point for the Warriors this season, and if you can have a top 5 defense with him, then I congratulate you. Even if he is going to play harder for Golden State, and I do think he will, at a certain point you just don't have the defensive chops, and I don't think he does. Now, of course, everything around him is really good, but I'm kind of afraid that the Warriors are just not going to care again. Like, they could win 69 games, or they're just going to coast through the regular season and win like 59 and then win the title that way. So if that's the case, they're probably not going to be top 5 in defense. Then we have the Portland Trailblazers, whose roster would not suggest that they really can do it again, but last season they were 6th in defensive rating because they just have enough of everything. They have Aminu, they got Harkless, Nurkic is pretty alright, but I don't see an elite defender on this team, and that could be their downfall. The Lakers should be pretty good on the perimeter and along the wings, but the center position, whether it's JaVale McGee or them going super small, I don't think that's going to do it for you. The Houston Rockets are going to be playing Carmelo Anthony at least 25 minutes a game, I guess. They lost Mbah Moute, who played just about the same amount of minutes for them and was a big reason why they were so good defensively last year. And I do think they will still be very good, but I don't know. I feel like they were just on the outside last season. Chris Paul's probably going to miss another 20 games. I think it'll be tough. And before I give you my actual pick, I do want to say the potential of Mike Budenholzer and Giannis making the Bucks elite is possible. However, my pick is actually the New Orleans Pelicans. They were among the best defensive teams in the league once they lost DeMarcus Cousins because they moved Anthony Davis to center. Whenever Davis plays center, he turns into Superman. He's proclaiming himself to be the best player in the league. He was amazing against the Blazers. Drew Holiday locked up Damian Lillard in that round 1 series. When I look at all these candidates for number 5, I don't think anyone has 2 of the best defenders in the league that I'm confident are going to play pretty much the whole season. Remember, I said I think Chris Paul is going to get hurt because he misses about 15 to 20 games almost every year at this point. Robertson's going to miss at minimum 2 months. It could go longer than that. So I'm just putting all my trust into 2 of the best guys in the league and a guy in Anthony Davis who at times has looked like the best defensive player in the league. He's done it for flashes, and I think now having him around the basket full time, that could be the thing that does it. So that is my pick. 4 teams who were among the 5 last year. The Spurs falling out, the Pelicans getting their way in there, and Anthony Davis is really good at basketball. Oh, and there's a new podcast in the description. I talked about how DeAndre Ayton has looked so far in the preseason, and then I gave my almost final thoughts on Mad Men, which I finally finished after like a whole year.